In this video, I'm going to talk about the Lyft Lux requirements. I hate YouTubers that just ramble on, so let's get right into it. First off, I have the requirements pulled up for LA. Remember, when it comes to Lyft Lux or any premium Lyft service, you have to have the basic requirements for Lyft plus more requirements. So looking at the basic ones here in LA, as you can see, the vehicle requirements right here, the driver requirements. If you want to drive for Lyft Lux, you have to have all of these. What's interesting though, is this also depends area to area. Like I've said in a lot of other videos, different cities and states have different requirements. So here, I need a valid California driver's license. Makes sense. However, when I go here, this is in Boston, I need a valid driver's license. Temporary or out-of-state licenses are also acceptable. So let's say if you want to drive for Lyft Lux in Boston, you might be able to with an out-of-state license, as opposed to here in LA or in another part of California, you actually need a valid California driver's license. So keep that in mind. Getting the basic requirements out of the way, now let's talk specifically about Lyft Lux. Who qualifies for Lux rides? Drivers must have at least a 4.85 driver rating to give Lux or Lux Black rides. I'll talk about Lux Black in a separate video. When it comes to this rating though, the 4.85, both Lyft and Uber require that for their luxury options. I don't think that's as high as it sounds, even though, don't get me wrong, like 4.85 is very close to 5 stars. Most people, especially in this day and age, just give 5 stars. Unless you really mess up, most people usually would just rate you pretty high. But keep this in mind, that if, let's say, your goal is to do the luxury option when it comes to Lyft, customer service goes a long way. Especially if you start driving for Lyft Lux, people want a luxury experience, right? They're paying more money to have that ride. This is something you'll have to keep in mind, because as they say here, if you're a new driver, you'll have to give standard Lyft or Lyft shared rides until you have a 4.85 rating. If your rating falls below that, you'll need to bring it back up with standard requests before you can get Lux rides. So remember, just because you can get in to the Lyft Lux program doesn't mean you stay in. If you get lower ratings or you get rated too low, you can lose Lyft Lux and you have to go back to regular Uber until you get it back up. Now talking about the vehicles, to qualify for Lyft Lux rides, you need to drive in a city where Lux is available. It's not available in every city. If I go here, this is on the help.lyft.com site. If I go to the lyft-new.zendesk site, you can see right here, Lyft Lux is no longer available in New York City. It's weird it says that here and not here, so keep that in mind if you are in New York watching this video. Lyft Lux seems like it doesn't exist. It even says here, drivers in New York City whose vehicles were Lyft Lux approved before May 25th, 2017, so a while ago, can still give Lux Black rides. If I go to New York City too, in terms of trying to order a Lyft, all I have available is Lyft, Lyft XL, Lux Black, and Lux Black XL. So it seems like there's really no Lyft Lux for New York. Could be the same for a lot of other cities. So you're gonna have to look up your city. The second thing is drive a 2014 or newer qualifying vehicle. Now at the exact time of this video, it is 2022. So your vehicle has to be 8 years old or newer, of course, right? 2014 to now. This may change. So in a couple years, it may be then 2015, 2016. As you can imagine, with a luxury option, they want a luxury vehicle, so the newer, the better. Now let's look at the qualifying vehicles. Your vehicle, like I said, needs to be 2014 or newer to qualify for Lyft Lux. However, the Lyft Lux vehicle model requirement is 2016 and newer in Houston, Texas. I wonder why Houston, it has to be 2016 or newer, because I feel like being here in LA, I feel like people would want like a newer vehicle, right? Because it's LA, people are big into being flashy and whatnot. So it's kind of weird that Houston's that one city that's the exception to the rule, but keep that in mind if you are in Houston. And here are the models, right? This is on the site, like I said. So your car has to be within these make and models. I'm just gonna scroll down slowly so you can see all these. A couple of things I want to say in terms of final thoughts when it comes to Lyft Lux. One is, you may be wondering, can I make more money? I mean, let's be honest. You probably want to drive for Lyft Lux because you want to make more money. the best thing I could suggest is test out the waters. Because on one end, those rides you're gonna get pay a lot more than typical Lyft rides. You definitely know that. But you still don't know overall if you're gonna make more money because there's gonna be fewer Lyft Lux rides. Every city is a little bit different. So for example, if you are in Vegas or LA, I could see you getting a lot more Lyft Lux rides because, hey, people are in LA and Vegas and maybe Miami too, like other very flashy cities, if I call them that. They want to go and roll up to an event and look in a great looking car and a great looking vehicle. That's another thing to keep in mind too is events. Maybe let's say if you do have a car that qualifies, test doing Lyft out on a normal Friday and Saturday night, see how much money you make, then do Lyft Lux. Maybe you switch it up where you only do Lyft on a Friday night, and let's say there's a big event coming up, at least at the exact time of this video, the Super Bowl is coming up here in LA, there's going to be a lot of luxury rides. Let's be honest, it's the Super Bowl and we're in LA, so that's going to be a great time to do that. So maybe you can mix it up as much as you can, depending on the financials. Always test it out. I do want to say that because even if your car does qualify, you might still realize, you know what? I only get a few luxury rides here and there, and although they pay more, in let's say a 10-hour window or 8-hour window, I'm still going to make more money through Lyft overall after driving for a while because I'm doing more rides even if they cost less, if that makes sense. Another thing I do want to say, and this is a big one, is to be aware of surge pricing and be cognizant that you might still make a little bit less than regular Lyft. Now, there was one time I remember, this actually happened a lot, but this is the one time I took a Lyft. In terms of the situation, I was at the airport. I pulled up Lyft, and it said Lyft was like $50. It was crazy surges, and I was like, oh man. And I wasn't going that far from the airport either. However, when I looked at Lyft Lux, it was only $30. It was $20 cheaper to take a luxury ride. I'm like, wait, how is it cheaper to take Lyft Lux than Lyft, and by a good amount too, not by like $1 or $2. $20, that's a pretty good amount. And I ended up taking the luxury ride, and I was talking to a lady, and she said that she only did luxury rides around the airport because she could make a good amount of money. Now, obviously, the way Lyft and Uber pays out gets very annoying because obviously, as we know, they don't pay as much as I used to. However, this is something like, and this is what I suggest to all the drivers out there, always test it out. Because it could be that because maybe they're more aggressive about the surge pricing when it comes to regular Lyft, Lyft Lux doesn't get the benefits of that surge pricing, and you might actually get less money when there are high surges. That is something I do suggest testing out. It still blows my mind, and there's been a lot of times too. I'm gonna be honest, when I'm out, and I just love seeing the math and the algorithms behind Lyft and Uber. I think it's super interesting. I will just look at it, be like, okay, how much is a Lux right now? How much is regular Uber? And I find that the higher the surges, if let's say it's 2 a.m. on a Friday night, everybody's leaving the bar, a Lyft Lux can be cheaper than a regular Lyft, which is interesting, and that might mean less money in your pocket. Now, of course, every city has a different surge algorithm. Every city is different when it comes to the surges. When it comes to Lyft, this is something that changes from location to location, but this is something to keep in mind. Although Lyft Lux is a great option to make more money, one, you're going to get fewer rides. That's something to keep in mind. And two, you might make less money potentially for the same ride if surges are high. If surges are low, of course, you're going to make more money if you look at Lyft Lux versus regular Lyft. But this is all something to keep in mind. This is why I suggest in almost every one of my videos, test out the waters, try both with your vehicle, see how much money you can make or not make, and then go from there.